Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to the final episode of my favourite 25 genre films videos. I thought science fiction was going to be my last category, but Steve from Steve for Films suggested it would be quite funny for me to do my favourite 25 romantic films or films about love, which obviously I have no real clue about, as I am Solitary Ronan. So before I get into my 25 favourite romantic films, please go over to Steve for Films channel. He does beautiful and wonderful visual videos with lovely segues and clips from films in the categories. It's far more professional than my videos. So with that being said, I will leave a link to his channel so you can go and bother him with why don't you do 25 romantic films. So I'll start off, love comes in many shapes and sizes, but sometimes there's nothing more purer than the love between a woman and an animal. So we've got Borowitz's The Beast. Now granted, not really sure the woman's in love with the beast, but the beast certainly has feelings for the woman. This is a moving tale of coming to terms with our bestial side, and curses and conforming and letting nature literally take its course. So this gives you a clue of what the other 24 films are going to be like. So at number 24, it's a film from France by Francois Truffaut. And this is The Woman Next Door. I'm a huge Fanny Ardant fan. And she stars alongside Gerard Depardieu. Not so much a Gerard Depardieu, even though he is in one of my favourite films of all time, Mon Oncle Amerique. And this tells the beautiful story of Gerard Depardieu, who lives with his wife and kids, who has a very pleasant, happy life, until neighbours move in, and the wife of the neighbour is Fanny Ardant, who Gerard Depardieu had a thing with several years before, and of course Randy Pan, the goat boy, turns up and throws both the marriages into turmoil, because Gerard Depardieu can't keep it in his trousers. So it's basically a film about how marriage and then finding somebody you used to do horizontal jogging with generally never works out. So at number 23, this is a group of films, and it's Aki Kaurismäki's romantic films. So this is Fallen Leaves, his latest one. And if you're familiar with Aki Kaurismäki, he has a certain style, a certain mentality. I've just got his entire box set, so anything basically. Shadows in Paradise is a great one. So the Match Factory Girl is a great one. Ariel is a great one. Take Care of Your Scarf, Titania. Drifting Clouds is one of my favourites. You is one of my favourites. Lights in the Dark. And also Fallen Leaves. Yes, it's not your Hollywood romance in Aki Kaurismäki's world. It's miserable people being miserable together, but in a very miserable way. So at number 22, I could have picked any of these from the Long Island trilogy, but I'm going to go with Hal Hartley's Trust, the middle one, with Adrienne Shelley and Martin Donovan. There's Edie Falco from Trust as well. Again, incompatible people getting together and somehow sort of ending up together, even though at the end of this one they're torn apart. Again, you could have The Unbelievable Truth with Adrienne Shelley and Robert Burke, or Simple Men with Robert Burke as well. Also Martin Donovan is in Simple Men as well. You know, quirky, influential, the number of directors that ripped Hal Hartley off. There's Adrienne Shelley in the back. She's was gone way too soon as well. Yeah, Trust. Again, it sort of works out. Not really. Number 21. One of my favourite films of 2019. Might be my favourite film of 2019. From Finland. Dogs Don't Wear Pants. Not necessarily romantic, but it is about the love between a man and his drowned wife. And he goes to a dominatrix who puts a plastic bag over his head until he's about to suffocate, and then he gets visions of his dead wife who drowned. So that's lovely. And then perhaps at the end he finds a way out of that grief, and perhaps to at least a friendship, who knows. It's just a beautiful film. Yes, if you don't like homemade dentistry, you might want to give it a miss. But it's got a heart of gold, and that's what this list is all about. Next, number 20, it's Made for Each Other. I mean, it's Carole Lombard and James Stewart. What could possibly go wrong? Directed by John Cromwell, and this starts off as a lovely little light romantic comedy. James Stewart and Carole Lombard are married. They would maybe like a little bit more money, so James Stewart tries to ask for a raise, and you know, they have a baby and they're trying to survive, but there's still a little bit of humour in there. And then tragedy strikes, disaster strikes. I mean, it's sad because this is almost what Carole Lombard could have been. It's got a bit more drama than the comedy suggests, or the comedy suggests from other films. Because I've got no doubt that if Carole Lombard hadn't died so tragically young, she would have ended up being one of the greatest of all time, and would have done far more dramatic roles as well as comedy, which she had a deft, light touch for. But this is Made for Each Other, and in the end it's wonderfully miserable. Fantastic. Next at number 19, Joseph Losey's The Go-Between. And this is really, you know, it's a doomed romance because it's a class thing between Alan Bates and Julie Christie. But this is really from Dominic Guard as a young boy, again from a poor family, spending the summer with a rich family who all secretly hate him because he's poor. But this is romance or love, even though it's really because Julie Christie likes a bit of rough with Alan Bates. You know, Alan Bates kind of stumbling over the explanation of what happens when a man and a woman like each other really a lot. But again, it's from the boy's point of view, as he's just used by the two people to pass messages, because obviously it's all about class, and he sees the warped nature of relationships, and the whole idea of romance and love is in actual fact a big pile of hypocrisy and lies. The Go-Between, lovely. At number 18, perhaps not conventionally a romantic film, Last Year at Marienbad. Again, Rennie's one of his many masterpieces, about a man at a party who talks to a woman and claims that she promised to meet him a year ago, when they were in Marienbad, that she would leave her husband. And of course she denies that they've ever met. Rennie and the writer, Alain Robbe-Grillet, both disagreed on whether they actually met or they didn't meet. Delphine Seyrig is the woman who just gives a wonderful floaty, ethereal performance. As I've said before, this might be the greatest edited film in history. Seyrig will be sitting in a room and she'll turn her head and she'll be in another room. I mean, the editing is devastating. And again, this is just about how, no matter what people say, when rubber hits road, they perhaps won't actually leave their spouse. And everything is black and white, and they're all dead, and it's a time machine and it's a spaceship. It's wonderful. Number 17, it's Mona Lisa. The wonderful Bob Hoskins ends up being a driver for Kathy Tyson, who's a call girl, financed by Michael Caine in one of his meanest and nastiest roles. He didn't actually do mean and nasty too often, I don't think. A small turn by Robbie Coltrane. It's one of Neil Jordan's finest works, and Bob Hoskins falls for Kathy Tyson even though they hate each other's guts when they start, obviously. But then there's a fairly nasty surprise coming for Bob Hoskins' character again, and spoiler alert, nothing works out. Next, at number 16, a film that is bafflingly still not on Blu-ray as far as I'm aware. Criterion just announced this behemoth of a 40 film Blu-ray set, most of which a lot of people will have a lot of the films. And I thought that maybe releasing 40 films that they only have on DVD and upgrading them to Blu-ray, now that might be a box set people would buy, but I'm not sure who this box set's aimed at, apart from completists. But I digress. A film that, as I say, is bafflingly not on Blu-ray. Powell and Pressburger's I Know Where I'm Going. Now this, you could argue, is actually sort of romantic. The Scottish Highlands, which Michael Powell absolutely adored. The music for this film was played at his funeral, as per his wishes. Roger Livesley again gives a wonderful performance. Wendy Hiller is fantastic as the cocksure woman who knows exactly where she's going and what she's going to do when she gets there. And then it's kind of like Black Narcissus as far as the atmosphere kind of affects people's minds. It's just, I suppose this is almost romantic. I'll give you that. But again, why do we not have a Blu-ray? I mean, all of Powell and Pressburger's films should have a Blu-ray or 4K. It should be in the law. There should be a law somewhere that actually says that. Next, from Belgium. I did say Belgium. It's the Dardennes, wonderfully romantic The Child. About this young couple here, played by Jeremy Ronier, who is in quite a few Dardenne films. About this young couple, and the father decides to sell the child. You can't get more romantic than that. Next up, number 14, who said cannibalism can't be romantic? It's Jean-Pierre Junot's Delicatessen with Jean Caro. This is the debut, and it's just absolutely beautiful. The browns and yellows. Obviously, City of Lost Children's more green, but the palette is just absolutely beautiful. And the relationship between Dominique Pignon as the ex-circus clown and Julie, the daughter of the butcher, in this apocalyptic little community. It's just absolutely beautiful and sweet. See, I can be totally romantic. Next, at number 13, a film that would seemingly become, or is becoming, more and more prophetic. It really sums up the modern dating world. It's Yorgos Lanthimos' The Lobster, of course. Single people get taken to this hotel in the middle of the country, and they've got 45 days to partner up, and if they don't, they get turned into an animal of their choice. Again, prophetic. It's practically Tinder. Next, again, you can't talk about romantic films without talking about Peeping Tom, of course. The romance between Carol Boehm and Anna Massey. You actually want Mark to be happy, despite the fact he's killing women and doing bad things. But you actually want him to somehow get out of it and live a happy life with Anna Massey, but obviously it's impossible. But so romantic. Peeping Tom. Next, at number 11, for years my favourite version of this was from a French poet, but this might now be my favourite version. It's Beauty and the Beast, or The Virgin and the Monster, by Juraj Herz. It's actually a proper monster. It's not just a big cuddly lion. It's totally nasty and is quite good for nightmare fuel. But this is just beautiful. The production design, the atmosphere, it's all dank and dark. But at the end of the day, it is a romantic film, apparently. We're into the top 10 now, and at 10, I've said it many times, my favourite Koreeda film, Air Doll, which, to be fair, isn't really a romance or love story in the greatest sense, because it's more about a love doll that comes to life in Japan and learns about human behaviour and human society. But she does find a male version of herself. So it's perhaps not a love story in the classic sense, but it is quite beautiful, and of course, because it's Japanese, it's not as exploitative as perhaps it could be. Lars and the Real Girl is another excellent love doll film with Ryan Gosling. At number 9, I had to put this in. This is going in a lot on my list, but why wouldn't it? It's The Tales of Hoffmann by Powell and Pressburger. This is just the Criterion DVD, which they upgraded to Blu-ray recently, with no new extras, I believe. Yeah, The Tales of Hoffmann. It's in this list because it's how romance and love works. Hoffmann is a complete buffoon who keeps falling for these almost fantasy women while realising or not realising he has somebody that cares for him very close to him, but he's always going for this fantasy image. One of them isn't even a woman. And he's always bested by Robert Helpman's Svengali Dracula devil character, who always outwits him but let's be honest, it's difficult not to outwit Hoffman because he is fairly thick. You know, the wonderful mirror shattering in the Venice sequence when he loses his soul, but then he smashes the mirror and he's elated to get his soul back, but then he looks in the mirror as a realisation of, oh, I've been a complete tube again. It's just wonderful. You know, he falls exhausted at the end of the film and Robert Helpman sweeps away with his girl as usual. Next, one of those films that could almost be autobiographical. This is number 8, and this is Bill Forsyth's wonderful Gregory's Girl. Gregory stands as a testament to all the gangly Scottish youths that girls make them uncomfortable because they're all weird. Still wonderful all these years. This is a fantastic BFI 4K which has a ton of special features. And again, this is about, you know, the fantasy girl isn't necessarily the one that is actually interested in you, but you're too busy looking at the fantasy, you don't realise what else is going on. And number 7, I'll give you this one, is a straightforward kind of rom-com that I actually like. Nobody dies at the end of the film, nobody explodes, aliens don't kill them at the end of the film or anything. This is from 1938 and this is Holiday. Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. As I've said in lots of other videos, it's completely predictable, absolutely no surprises whatsoever, but the script's fantastic, the chemistry is fantastic, the dialogue, the way it just zips about is just tremendous, proving once again star power in those days actually counted for something. Next, another film that is crazily not on Blu-ray, or another set of films that are crazily not on Blu-ray. This is my favourite, Claude Chabrol. This is La Bouche, that's the main picture there, with the wonderful Stéphane Audran, who plays a country school teacher. You know, she comes from the city or the town, and she starts a relationship with Le Boucher, or the local butcher, but people are being killed, which can be a bit of a dampener on a relationship. Yeah, I mean, Arrow did great work on releasing those 2 Chabrol box sets of kind of later films, but Chabrol's mid to late 60s, early 70s films really need Blu-rays. The Man Must Die, or The Beast Must Die, La Biche, La Femme Infidèle, Le Breach, or The Breach, La Bouche, all really deserve, if that's the word, Blu-rays. But I've always loved La Bouche. It's got a great, it's not berries, well, there's a great eating something and spitting out the stone scene. There's wonderful tension, but again, very much like Peeping Tom, there is some kind of sympathy for the proverbial devil. Next, another film that potentially you could actually call romantic in the true sense of the word. Lubitsch's Shop Around the Corner. I mean, for me, obviously, it's not Margaret Sullivan and James Stewart that's the draw here. It's actually all the surrounding cast, lots of Lubitsch regulars, characters and people you actually want to spend time with. I know in generalistic terms, modern cinema could learn a lot by actually writing characters that the audience wants to spend time with. I know that's a novel idea, but this is just pure gold. And yes, it is sort of romantic, but again, that isn't what makes me love this film. And The Wizard of Oz is in it, Frank Morgan. Now we're getting, the last four are like, we're getting to the tip top of romance. Get your flowers and your chocolates out, because this is pure romance in every sense of the word. So at number 4, Decalogue 6, or A Short Film About Love, either version, about a young peeping Tom who finds out what love really is, or the difference between lust and love, and how they're not the same thing, even though one of them exists and one of them doesn't. That's just my opinion, and my opinion is not fact, obviously. Shazlovsky brilliance, either version. On the Criterion edition of Decalogue, you get both: a short film about love, a short film about killing. So it's either whatever version, they're both wonderful. At number 3, As If You Can't Take Any More Romance, here's Tsukamoto's Vital, finally getting a Region B release from Third Window. So I would recommend everybody pre-order Vital from Third Window or from Terracotta. I think this might have been one of my favourite films of the 2000s, or it might have been my film of the 2000s. The wonderful Tadanobu Asano stars as a young man who is in a car accident. He has lost his memory of what kind of happened, but unfortunately his girlfriend died, and he's at university doing a medical course, and they get to work on a cadaver. And of course, the cadaver he works on is his girlfriend. You can't get more romantic than that, can you? It's just a beautiful film about death, love, the human body just as a shell, memory. It's just an absolute cracker. Always been one of my favourites since I saw it in the early 2000s. People don't talk about Tsukamoto enough, especially with the limited budgets. The limited budgets that he has. To be fair, he does work with limited budgets as well. Most of his films, they only maybe have like one budgie on set. And we all know, like Hollywood, sometimes a Hollywood blockbuster can have like 100 budgies on set. But Tsukamoto makes do with only one budgie. At number 2, now I cannot think of the word romance or the word love without thinking about Crash. Now obviously you can't get a better love than between human and machine. This is just so romantic. There's literally romance dripping all over this film. There's Cronenberg in a threesome. It's about pushing the envelope. We live in such a banal world that you have to push the envelope, involving crashing cars. Just an absolute masterpiece. And as I said, I can't think about the word romance without thinking about Crash. Now, if you have any idea about what goes on in my channel, you'll probably realise or be able to guess what number 1 is. Strangely enough, I didn't put Black Narcissus on this list, even though there's never been a greater film about the love between a nun and David Farrar's hairy knees. So it's not Black Narcissus. It is, of course, Martin Scorsese's finest film, The Age of Innocence. Now I may have dreamt it, but I thought I heard there's going to be a 4K. But again, I may have dreamt that. I dream about films getting 4Ks quite a lot. Daniel Day-Lewis, Michelle Pfeiffer and Winona Ryder. Again, this was the film that Michelle Pfeiffer really blew my socks off. Of course, it's a film about not getting what you want. Daniel Day-Lewis is married to Winona Ryder, and then Countess Oleska, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, comes into the picture. Daniel Day-Lewis thinks he's the smartest person in the room, but doesn't realise he's not the smartest person in the room. It's just an absolute masterpiece on how you will never get what you want. Lovely. I mean, I know some people go, well, you can't really feel that bad for him because obviously he's rich and he lives in this society. And I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer, I don't really keep up with Oscars, but Michelle Pfeiffer should really get the Oscar. It's an absolute masterpiece, along with Kundun, probably Scorsese's most obvious tribute to Michael Powell. But man, I absolutely adore this film. I remember when it came out, and obviously people were like, what's Scorsese doing? I mean, this is a costume drama, but to me it's his best film. For some reason, it does say it's a 12, and it says for infrequent strong language. It's like, I'm not aware of infrequent strong language in The Age of Innocence. I don't know. But yeah, that's my favourite, quote, romantic or film about love. So as you see, love comes in many shapes and sizes, many flavours and tastes. But all you need to do is remember, it never works out. So thanks very much for watching. Please let me know what some of your favourite romantic films are. And again, go over to Steve for Films channel and subscribe and ask him to do his favourite 25 romantic films. See how he likes it. So thanks very much for watching. This will definitely be the last genre 25 films honest. But hopefully there'll be something else you might like on the channel. So this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.